Hi viewers, this video is for the IAS aspirants which aids you in the preparation of Indian polity. You know, the Indian polity is an important area of UPSC civil service examination. The Bible to cover this area is Indian polity by Lakshmikant. This video is based on the Lakshmikant chapter 1 which covers the historical background of Indian politics. Please watch the video and don't forget to press the subscribe button and bell button so that my further videos will reach you soon. There were certain events in the British rule that laid down the legal framework for the organization and functioning of government and administration in British India. These events greatly influenced our constitution and polity. These are explained in a chronological order under two main headings, that is the Company Rule, which ranges from 1773 to 1858, and the Crown Rule from 1858 to 1947. First, we will discuss the Company Rule, that is the period from 1773 to 1858. The first act under Company Rule was Regulating Act of 1773. This act was of great constitutional importance as it was the first step taken by the British government to control and regulate the affairs of East India Company in India, and it recognized for the first time the political and administrative functions of the company, and it laid the foundation of central administration in India. The main features of these acts were: it designated the Governor of Bengal as Governor General of Bengal and created an executive council consisting of 4 members to assist him. The first such Governor General was Warren Hastings. It establishes a Supreme Court at Calcutta in 1774, and this court consists of 1 Chief Justice and 3 other judges. And it appoints a court of directors to control the company and to report the revenue, civil and military affairs in India. Next act is Amending Act of 1781. This act is passed to rectify the defects of Regulating Act of 1773, and this act is also called Act of Settlement. The main features of the acts were: it exempted the Governor General and the Council from the jurisdiction of Supreme Court. Similarly, it also exempted servants of the company from the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court for their official actions. It excluded the revenue matters and the matters arising in the collection of revenue from the jurisdiction of Supreme Court. It provided the Supreme Court to have jurisdiction over all inhabitants of Calcutta. And it also required that the court to administer personal law of the defendants, that is the Hindus were tried according to Hindu law and Muslims tried according to Muslim Muhammadan law, etc. It laid down the appeals from the provisional court should be taken to Governor General in Council and not to the Supreme Court. And it also empowered the Governor General in Council to frame the regulation for provincial court and councils. Next important act is Pitt's India Act of 1784. The main features of the acts are: it distinguished between the commercial and political functions of the company. It allowed the court of directors to manage the commercial affairs but created a new body called Board of Control to manage the political affairs. That is, it established a system of double government. It empowered the Board of Control to supervise and direct all the operations of civil and military government or revenues of the British possessions in India. Next act is Charter Act of 1793. It gave Governor General more powers and control over the governments of the subordinate presidencies of Bombay and Madras. It extended trade monopoly of the company for another 20 years. It provided Commander-in-Chief was not to be a member of the Governor General's Council unless he was so appointed, and it laid down that the members of the Board of Control and their staff were to be paid out of Indian revenues. Next act under company rule was Charter Act of 1830. It abolished the trade monopoly of the company in India. That is, the Indian trade was thrown open to all British merchants, but the company continued the monopoly of the trade in tea and trade with China. It asserted sovereignty of the British Crown over the company's territories in India. It allowed Christian missionaries to come into India for the purpose of enlightening the people. It provided for the spread of Western education among the inhabitants of British territories in India. It authorized the local governments in India to impose taxes on persons. They could also punish the persons for not paying the taxes. Next act is Charter Act of 1833. This act was the final step towards centralization in British India. It made the Governor General of Bengal as Governor General of India and vested him with all civil and military powers. Lord William Bentinck was the first Governor General of India. It deprived the Governor of Bombay and Madras of their legislative powers. The Governor General of India was given the exclusive legislative power for the entire British India. It ended the activities of East India Company as a commercial body, and it became purely administrative body. And it attempted to introduce a system of open competition for the selection of civil servants, and stated that the Indian could not be debarred from holding any place, office and employment under the company, but this provision was negated after opposition from the Court of Directors. Charter Act of 1853. This was the last of the series of Charter Acts passed by the British Parliament between 1793 and 1853, and it was a significant constitutional landmark. The main features of the acts were: it separated the legislative and executive functions of the Governor General's Council, and it provided for the addition of 6 new members called the Legislative Councillors to the Council. It established a separate Governor General's Legislative Council, which came to be known as Indian Legislative Council. It introduced an open competition system of selection and recruitment of civil servants. The covenanted civil servants was open to the Indians also. It introduced for the first time local representation in the Indian Legislative Council. Of the 6 new legislative members of the Governor General's Council, 4 members were appointed by the local or provincial governments of Madras, Bombay, Bengal and Agra. Next is the Crown Rule, which is the period from 1858 to 1947. The first act under Crown's rule was Government of India Act 1858. This act is known as the Good Government of India. It abolished the East India Company and transferred the power of government, territories and revenues to the British Crown. It changed the designation of Governor General of India to the Viceroy of India. The Viceroy was the direct representative of British Crown in India. Lord Canning was the first Viceroy of India. It ended the system of double government by abolishing Board of Control and Court of Directors. It created a new office called Secretary of State for India and vested with complete authority and control over Indian administration. The Secretary of State was the member of British Cabinet, and he was responsible for ultimately to British Parliament. It established a 15-member Council of India to assist the Secretary of State. The next act is Indian Council Act of 1861. It made the beginning of a representative institutions by associating Indians in the law-making process. It provided Viceroy should nominate some Indians as non-official members of its expanded council. In 1862, Lord Canning nominated 3 Indians to the Legislative Council: Raja of Banaras, Maharaja of Patiala and Sir Dinagar Rao. It initiated the process of decentralization by restoring the legislative powers of Bombay and Madras presidencies. It also provided for the establishment of new legislative council for Bengal, northwestern provinces, Punjab, which were established in 1862, 1886 and 1897 respectively. Next act is Indian Council Act of 1892. It increased the number of non-official members in the central and provincial legislative councils but maintained the official majority in them. It increased the functions of legislative council and gave them the power to discuss the budget and addressing questions in the executive. It provided for the nomination of some non-official members of central legislative council by the Viceroy on recommendation of provincial legislative council and the Bengal Chamber of Commerce, and that of provincial legislative council by the governors on recommendation of district boards, municipalities, universities, trade associations, zemindars and chambers. Next act is Indian Council Act of 1909. This act is also known as Minto-Morley reforms. Lord Morley was the Secretary of State and Lord Minto was the Viceroy of India. It considerably increased the size of legislative council both in the central and provincial. The number of members in the Central Legislative Council was raised from 16 to 60, and the number of members in the Provincial Legislative Council was not uniform. It also provided for the separate representation of presidency corporations, chambers of commerce, universities, and zemindars. It retained the official majority in the Central Legislative Council but allowed the Provincial Legislative Council to have non-official majority. And it provided for the first time the association of Indians with the Executive Council of Viceroy and Governors. Satyendra Prasad Sinha became the first Indian to join Viceroy's Executive Council. He was appointed as a law member. It introduced a system of communal representation for Muslims by accepting the concept of separate electorate. Under this, Muslim members were to be elected only by the Muslim voters. This act legalized the communalism and Lord Minto came to be known as father of communal electorate. The next important act was Government of India Act 1919. This act was known as Montagu-Chelmsford Reforms. Montagu was the Secretary of State for India and Lord Chelmsford was the Viceroy of India. It relaxed the central control over the provinces by demarcating and separating the central and provincial subjects. It divided the provincial subjects into two, transferred and reserved. The transferred subjects were administered by the governor with the aid of ministers responsible for the legislative council. The reserved subjects, on the other hand, were to be administered by the governor and his executive council without being responsible to the legislative council. This dual scheme of governance was known as diarchy. For the first time, bicameralism and direct elections are introduced in the country. Thus, the Indian Legislative Council was replaced by a bicameral legislative consisting of an upper house called the Council of State and a lower house called the Legislative Assembly. The majority of members of both houses were chosen by direct election. It required the 3 of 6 members of the Viceroy's Executive Council other than the Commander-in-Chief were to be Indian. It extended the principle of communal representation by providing separate electorates for Sikhs, Indian Christians, Anglo-Indians and Europeans. It granted franchisee to a limited number of people on the basis of property, tax or education. It created a new office of the High Commissioner for India in London and transferred him some of the functions performed by the Secretary of State for India. It provided for the establishment of a Public Service Commission. Hence, a Central Public Service Commission was set up in 1926 for recruiting civil servants. It separated for the first time provincial budgets from the central budget and authorized provincial legislature to enact their budget. Simon Commission. In November 1927, the British government announced the appointment of a 7-member statutory commission under the chairmanship of Sir John Simon to report on the condition of India under its new constitution. All the members of the commission were British, hence all the parties boycotted the commission. Abolition of diarchy, extension of responsible government in the provinces, establishment of a federation of British India and princely states, continuation of communal electorate are recommended by the commission. To consider the proposals of the commission, British government convened 3 roundtable conferences of the representatives of the British government, British India and Indian princely states. Communal Award. In August 1932, Ramsay MacDonald, the British Prime Minister, announced a scheme of representation of minorities which came to be known as Communal Award. This award not only continued separate electorates for Muslims, Sikhs, Indian Christians, Anglo-Indians and Europeans, but also extended it to depressed classes, that is the scheduled caste. Gandhiji was distressed over this extension of principle of communal representation to the depressed classes and undertook fast to death in Yerwada jail, Pune, to get the award modified. At last, there was an agreement between the Congress leaders and the depressed classes. This agreement is known as Pune Pact, and it retained the Hindu joint electorate and gave reserved seats to the depressed classes. Next act is Government of India Act of 1935. This act marked a second milestone towards the completely responsible government in India. It provides for the establishment of All India Federation consisting of provinces and princely states as units. This act divided the powers between central and units in terms of three lists. The federal list for the center, which consists of 59 items, provincial list for provinces, which consists of 54 items, and the concurrent list for both with 36 items. Residuary powers were given to the Viceroy. The federation never came to being as the princely states didn't join it. It abolished diarchy in the provinces and introduced a provincial autonomy in its place. The provinces were allowed to act as autonomous units of administration in their defined spheres. The Act introduced responsible governments in the provinces. That is, the governor was required to act with the advice of ministers responsible for the provincial legislature. It provided for the adoption of diarchy at the center. Consequently, the federal subjects were divided into reserved subjects and transferred subjects. It introduced bicameralism in 6 out of 11 provinces. That is, the legislatures of Bengal, Bombay, Madras, Bihar, Assam and the United Provinces were made bicameral. It further extended the principles of communal representation by providing separate electorates for depressed classes, women and labourers. It extended franchisee. About 10% of the total population of India got the voting right. It provided for the establishment of Reserve Bank of India to control the currency and credit of the country. It provided for the establishment of not only a Federal Public Service Commission but also a Provincial Public Service Commission and Joint Public Service Commission for 2 or more provinces. It provided for the establishment of a Federal Court which was set up in 1937. The last act is Indian Independence Act of 1947. On February 20, 1947, the British Prime Minister Clement Attlee declared that the British rule in India would end by June 30, 1948. It ended the British rule in India and declared India as independent and sovereign state from August 15, 1947. It provided for the partition of India and creation of 2 independent dominions of India and Pakistan with the right to cede from British Commonwealth. It abolished the office of Viceroy and provided for each dominion a Governor General who was to be appointed by the British King on the advice of the Dominion Cabinet. It empowered the constituent assemblies of the 2 dominions to frame and adopt any constitution for their respective nations and to repeal any act of British Parliament, including the Independence Act itself. It empowered the constituent assemblies of both dominions to legislate for their respective territories till the new constitutions were drafted and enforced. It abolished the office of the Secretary of State for India and transferred his function to the Secretary of State for the Commonwealth Affairs. It granted freedom to the Indian princely states either to join the Dominion of India or to Dominion of Pakistan or to remain independent. It provided for the governance of each of the dominions and the provinces by Government of India Act of 1935 till the new constitutions were framed. It discontinued the appointment to civil services and reservation of posts by the Secretary of State for India. The members of the civil services appointed before August 15 would continue to enjoy all the benefits that were entitled to till that time. So, thus, the historical background of Indian polity was ended with the Indian Independence Act, and I will come with the Indian polity second part soon. Kindly subscribe on my video and press bell button so that my future videos will reach out to you. Thank you.